G'day. Welcome. Welcome to another live session. How are you this morning? I say this morning because it's 7:30 a.m. here for me. My Australian gum blossom eucalyptus tea mug that's got some hot tea for me for a chilly autumn morning here in Australia. So I'm sure it's a lovely spring evening for many of you on the other side of the world. Welcome to this talking session. I've just rolled out of bed into a cold shower and out. So forgive me if I say the wrong word momentarily. But welcome to another live session. And I would love to have your thoughts on anything I'm saying. I also just really love to know where people are watching from. So please, if you're one of those two people now, tell me what country in the world are you from, and we'll start this discussion topic. And it's something that I didn't realize until maybe the last 6 months, how important this has been for me in my drawing journey, because I was able to take it for granted. But I've probably, because I've been making all these teaching videos, I've come to understand how much this has underpinned my own personal drawing development. Because if you look at my drawings over the last 2.5 years, since I've been drawing freehand in ink for making YouTube videos, which was really when I started drawing freehand in ink, you'll, I think, see that there really has been a development. And it's not so much getting better, although I think I have improved, but it's also developing the way I've thought, and what I've been trying to do has changed as well. And knowing what we're trying to do is important, because that leads what we try to do, which leads what we do and how we go in that. And what I've come to realize is how much my drawing development has been linked to knowing how to go about it. And knowing how to go about it in the sense of, if I'm learning to draw, and if I'm not doing a formal course where I have a leader, hi there, Mars, where are you? Then I have to be more than just a drawing student. I have to be a drawing teacher as well, because I have to teach myself. I have to direct myself. Now, I don't mean teach in the sense of I'm the person with the knowledge telling myself what I need to know. What I need to know, that would be a bit ridiculous. But what I mean is, I'm the person who has to set everything about my drawing journey. I'm the one who has to, I need to get content from other people, but I'm the one who needs to decide what content I look at, how I look at it, what I do with it, and all of this. So in other words, and they're all things that a teacher does. Now, the teacher's also meant to know, in Florida, sounds lovely and warm, Lance. Very, very chilly here. If I'm self-taught, then I have to do all of those choosing, navigating things. And most people I come in contact with through YouTube are on a self-taught journey. That's why they're watching YouTube videos, because that's the place of resources. That's the place of teaching components that they're using. But it really goes beyond just what videos will I watch. So I wanted to talk about, I guess if I have a topic for this, it's how to be your own best art teacher. So all the things that a teacher would do for a class, for a course. And very helpful is to think back to your own school experience, which is probably, for most of us, the learning experience, the learning environment that we all have, that we've all had in our life. And in lots of ways, it actually tells us a lot of what's helpful to know if we're having to be our own teacher now for our art journey. So, how to be your own best art teacher as well as the best student in the class as well. We need to be that still. I'm not saying we're not learning, and I'm not saying we know it all. We certainly don't. But we need to take on the responsibilities that a teacher in a class or a course would take. So, what does a teacher do? Well, a good teacher will plan the year, will plan the 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 time. I'll restart that sentence. A good teacher will organize a curriculum and a sense of the time with which it's going to be done in. So whether it's a 6 month or a 1 year curriculum, and whether it's a year, but a year with 3 years in mind, a good teacher has a plan, but they also have a curriculum broken down into smaller chunks. They have smaller goals. So a teacher will come in, and maybe we're doing this book, an English class doing this subject. Teacher will come in and say, okay, we're doing chapter 1. Read chapter 1. These are the questions. Think about this. And maybe give some tips, some background to help with the understanding either of the story or perhaps the way the writer was thinking. But a good teacher plans and has a focus. And when we learn to draw, when we're self-taught ourselves, we need to welcome everyone. We need to have a plan. So I don't think it's enough to want to draw. I don't think it's enough to want to be successful. I don't think it's enough to imagine having social media blow out because of our wonderful drawing posts that we put on it. The best plans become quite detailed. The best plans build and grow on themselves. The best learning plans. So I need to ask myself questions. What am I wanting to learn? Where do I want to be at the end of my course? Because if I just start grabbing videos and watching them, I could end up anywhere. Now, I might be happy to do that. I might just want to float around on the creative ocean and go wherever the currents take me. And I don't care whether I do a little bit of this or a little bit of that, or what I end up with, because it's the process that I'm enjoying. That's okay. No problem with that at all. Artistic walkabout. No problem at all. But if I have a particular drawing artist in mind whose work inspires me, and I want to do something that's like that, then that's a focus. That's what I want to do. If I want to be able to draw so that I can watercolor or pastel over the top of it on location, then that's a plan. That's a curriculum. That's a curriculum now that can be written. That's classes that can be organized. So knowing what we want to do, if I want to learn how to draw in ink rather than in pencil, because I've been drawing in pencil for a while and for different reasons, I'd like to try something different. Well, that's become my drawing curriculum, learning to draw in ink. But if I'm new to drawing, then learning to draw anything in ink may also be something I need to do. And so that's something that will inform my planning. When you're at school, you'll notice that classes from year to year built on what they were doing previous years. Or at university with classes, we would have courses that assumed prior knowledge, or classes where you had to have taken another subject earlier. And we need to be realistic about that. I might want to do this subject technique, but maybe it's important that I've already spent some time doing this before I do that. So I need to do that, because otherwise I might just be wasting my time and setting myself up for discouragement. So knowing what I'm wanting to do is important. Now, if we think back to how school worked, well, we had to go every day, didn't we? 5 days a week. And they used to get upset if we didn't turn up for classes without a good reason. And there's a reason for that, because when we learn best if we get relatively small amounts of input, but frequently and regularly. They don't have to be long, but regular. And if we don't want to think about school, if school is a traumatic memory, and it can be for some, if we've learned any skill, that gives us indications. If I've ever learned a musical instrument, well, that tells me how I learn, and whether I haven't, but whether I practice every day or not, I know that that's the goal. I know that any teacher I've had for a musical instrument will be saying, now you need to do 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes practice every day or 5 days a week. And there's a reason for that, because it's a good way to learn. It's a good way to be still holding in our mind, in our fingers, in our thinking, what we've done the previous session, so that we can then build on that. So therefore, if I'm going to be my own art teacher, which I have to be if I'm on a self-taught learning journey, then I need to plan regular sessions. Now, depending where learning to draw fits into my life, it may not have as high a priority as learning to read and write and being at school. But the principle still applies. And so for whatever's happening in my life, I need to make as much of a priority as possible drawing frequently, even if it's for a short period of time, because short learning sessions are very effective if they're frequent. Now, that can not necessarily be what we want to do, because if I want to learn to draw, I may want to be, I may have in my mind producing wonderful artworks, wonderful, detailed, large, impressive artworks. The problem is I may not be at the stage where I'm really able to do what I have in my mind, because our creative thinking will always be able to run ahead of what we're able to do. And that's something we have to learn to accept, to use, but not to stumble because of. Because it's very easy to think, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I can just picture this. And then we can't, and we get discouraged, and we think, oh, I'm no good, I'm wasting my time. But no, that's not the case at all. It's just that we need to go easy on ourselves and appreciate that the creativity of our mind can run faster and harder further than we're able to catch up with what we can actually do. But that's all part of the learning process. And as the teacher, I need to be aware of that. I'm talking about the need for me to be not just a drawing student on a self-taught drawing journey, but I need to be my teacher as well. Not in the sense of knowing the content already, because I obviously don't, but organizing everything. And what I came to realize over the last couple of years since I've been drawing in ink, freehand in ink, is how much my personal drawing journey has been informed by the fact that I have a teaching background. That even though I didn't teach for many years, I had some voice issues and whatnot, and couldn't continue that. But just knowing how to learn, because as teachers, we're taught in teacher training, we're taught how we learn, because that determines then the best way of teaching. And that's what we spent most of our time in terms of teacher education learning. It's not learning the content of whatever subjects we're going to teach. The content is almost irrelevant, but it's understanding the learning process so that as teachers, we can tap into that and structure what we do in ways that that are, if you like, easily picked up by all the ways as humans we learn. And so I realized that I was able to use that without even particularly being aware of it in the choices I was making and the things I was doing and the ways in which I was doing them. Have I taught myself other skills? Probably all of them. How to be a husband, how to be a father, how to get across the road without being hit. Look, I taught myself oil painting too, so I guess that's something. Big painting of a Australian eucalyptus behind me. I think the truth is we look, nothing obvious is coming to mind. Right now, I would like to learn an instrument. I keep using learning the piano as a parallel to learning to draw, and we have a piano because my wife plays and my children all learned, which is why I use a piano as an example of how we learn, because I got to listen to them for years and years and years for doing their 15 minutes practice every day. But I came to see how just how important it was. I also came to see that if you practice well, you became better at playing. If you practice badly, and by badly I mean if you rushed or didn't worry so much about hitting wrong notes, then you learnt to do that over and over again. So I did learn that you get better at what you practice by listening to the children practice their piano. I'll just read this comment. I struggle with drawing a lot, but without seeing a lot of results. At the end of the day, I don't feel like I made a big difference. If I mean, any one thing we do, we may not be happy with, and that's just life, doing anything. And I've got some drawings that I feel have reached where I was trying to go better than others. I have some where I think, oh, this is nothing like what I thought it was going to be. I just haven't done this or that. But firstly, not reaching the mark makes it easier to reach the mark next time, because now I know what not to do. Now I can look at my work. See, I talk about the need to be our own teacher, which is what this is about. And I'm not just the student who's done the work and handed the work into the teacher, but now I'm the teacher who has to mark the work and get the red pen and say whether it passes or not, and what comments are there. What can I do better next time? These are all the things a teacher does. Self-taught artist journey, I need to do these things myself. And I don't do it to beat myself up. I don't do it to say you're hopeless and give up and what made you think you could do this. I do this because when I mark my work, I have to know what's wrong. I mean, wrong doesn't seem to be a word that we can use anymore, but like I have to know what hasn't worked the way I would have liked it to have worked. It's not that necessarily with drawing, this is better than this, but this may be what I'm trying to do. And therefore, I need to know whether I've achieved it, because if I haven't, what's not turned out tells me what I should do next time. And I find that that incredibly helpful. So if I've been trying to say get a light effect in a drawing, I look at it and I think, do I like it or not? Has it achieved what I was trying to, and I feel what I was feeling and wanting to bring out? And maybe I have, and I can give myself an A or a B plus. Or maybe I look at it and I think, yeah, look, this was probably as good as I could have done. But now that I've done this, I can see that this isn't working as well as I could. I could see that maybe it's too light and too dark. Maybe a little more mid-value here and here and here actually would work well. Now, normally I try and avoid too much mid-value because a lot of mid-value just looks boring. But but maybe I worked out I've gone too far and that I should have had a little more subtlety in perhaps the change of values. So, but I only get that if I put my teacher's hat on and get my red pen and actually say, okay, I'm feeling that this isn't working as much as it could have. It hasn't quite captured what's in the reference. Why not? And what can I do in the next drawing? And there is a reason why, if we did particularly bad, teachers might say, do again on our drawing, because doing again straight away is, as you've possibly heard me say in the past, a really powerful learning tool because we can focus now on all that we now know that we didn't know when we started. And as I said, if I'm not aware that I'm also my teacher and that I need to be a good teacher, I need to be a persistent teacher, persistent with my students. I need to really push them on. I need to highlight where what they've done is not good enough for their sake, not because I'm a horrible, mean, critical teacher who wants to make myself feel better at their expense, but because I'm a good teacher who's really concerned that my students do as well as they can and develop in every way possible. And so I give them feedback, and sometimes I make them redo things so that they can do better. Now, I need to do that as my own teacher. So I need to be able to talk sternly to myself as well as encouragingly to myself, depending what's needed, and then improve and then do it again. But again, I need to realize that I'm doing that. And I think what can be confusing is that we think that somehow the YouTube videos that we're watching are our teachers, or the book that we're reading is our teacher. But no, that's just a resource. That's a teaching input module, and as teachers, we choose the resources. We look at a whole range of possibilities of teaching input, things that we can use in our lessons, and we select some of them. Now, some of them might literally be a video that we play in front of our class, but at other times not. At other times, just a minute. At other times, it's not that. We actually use that material ourselves as the teacher, and then we teach it to the class. But as a self-taught artist, I'm my own teacher, so I have to choose the content, and I need to realize that not all content is the same. I need to realize that all content doesn't end up being helpful to get to the same place. Some content's just not good teaching. Um, if we think back to school, we had teachers who were good teachers and teachers who weren't such good teachers. And even if we didn't like the subject, we often enjoyed a class because of the teacher. I never found that maths came as easily to me as perhaps every other subject. And so it was more of a struggle, and I never enjoyed maths. I never looked forward to maths. But in senior years, we had this teacher who was just a really nice person and a really good teacher. And I she explained everything really nicely and clearly and simply, and she never got excited or carried on, and she coped with whatever we threw up easily. And I finished up doing a high level of maths for my end of school, um, uh, in Australia, the HSC, we call it, the high school certificate, the leaving, what you do when you leave school, the last set of big exams that you have. And I never planned to actually do maths to that level to the end. I was going to drop to a lower subject, a lower level, because I didn't need it. I didn't need the credit that you got from it by that stage. I had other things I was doing. And I stayed in that class at that high level simply because the teacher was so good and just encouraged me and made me feel like I can do it. And so even though I didn't need to do it, I finished up doing it because of the enjoyment of the process. So we need to be that person to ourselves. Just look at a couple of. There's a question here. I had a teacher that encouraged us. Do you think you could do it again? Not in a bad way, but to think in our process. Yeah, that's right. Because we start where we left off. When we redo some of our work, we're starting where we left off, and therefore we're starting more knowledgeable. We're starting with more experience. Or do you want to do another one to encourage you to think it over? Another point? Yeah. Repetition is a key part of learning. Being able to set repetition in a way that's interesting is a key part of being a good teacher. And that, I think, is the challenge, is that we need to be doing things the same to learn and to consolidate, but we need to do it differently enough that it's interesting and motivating, and that we can learn more widely as well. And of course, all of these things are relevant if we're our own teacher, as we will be if we're not doing a course or have a class that we go to, in what we choose. So it's really important to realize it's not, if you watch my drawing videos, then I'm not your teacher. You're still your teacher. And as your teacher, you're choosing some of my videos to watch, because as the teacher, you realize that this input is helpful for where the class needs to go. Even if you're also the class and the only person in the class, it's still the process, because not every video I make will be useful for everyone, even everyone who's chosen my videos to watch, because I'm going wider or in different directions at different times with different videos than you necessarily are wanting to go with your drawing. Or drawing freehand in ink may just be a part of the drawing journey that you're quite consciously trying to go on. And so therefore you need to have other input as well. And this is where, again, it depends on we need to know our purpose in why I'm doing this. Am I doing this because I really want to learn to draw well? Am I doing this because messing around with pen and paper and ink is a lot of fun, and I enjoy it, and I'm really just having a good time instead of watching TV? I'm just playing around with pen and paper, and I don't really care where it goes because I'm really enjoying the creative process. In which case, I might be choosing videos that entertain me as much as teach me, because my purpose is to have fun, to be entertained. I'm not trying to have an exhibition in 2 years' time or anything. And so those things are important too. Lance is saying there are 10 to 20 different students inside his head, along with a few different teachers. Yeah. And look, some days we're the good student and sometimes we're the bad student. Some days we have a good attitude, sometimes we have a bad attitude. Sometimes we've come to class and we haven't had enough sleep, or it's first period and we haven't warmed up properly. Our brain hasn't warmed up yet. We may be the teacher and we stayed out too late last night as well. And so it's a little harder to make the best teaching choices. But we need to be aware that we need to, and to be doing this. Hello there. Let me have a look. Yeah, so some more things that a good teacher will do. So I want to run through some things that a good teacher does so that we do them for ourselves, because we have to do them for ourselves because we are our teacher. So I've talked about a good teacher plans a curriculum, knows where we're going, has a focus for the end, but also the things that we need to do along the way. I need to think that out. Knowing I want to learn to draw or I want to get better, that's a great general statement. But if we don't break it down, we're going to easily just wander our drawing journey will just be wandering over here, over there, over there. A certain video will turn up and I'll watch that, and that'll take me in a totally different way of thinking maybe to what I've been doing. I'll see an artist's work and I'll be trying to copy what they're doing, even though it actually doesn't really relate to where I thought I was going. So the question is, am I changing where I was going or what? So planning a curriculum, having regular times, regular classes, whether that's once a day or once a week, depends on how important the drawing is in relation to everything else I do in a day, in a week, in a month, and just what other responsibilities I have. But a good teacher, also makes sure that there's a progression in learning, that we start with easier things and that we learn the foundational things, and we call them foundational things because we build on them, learn them well, get them right, don't rush them, understand the importance of them, and then we can add to those. So I would say in drawing the sorts of things I draw, understanding how perspective works is a foundational thing. Now, it doesn't mean that we have to study perspective on its own, but we need to understand what it is, and we need to then understand it well in simple situations. And then as we progress, if you like, all of our drawing skills, we can start to see how it works with more complex examples, subject examples, for instance. And so when we learn, we have this pattern, this template of learning, that we learn the important things, we learn the foundational things, we learn them very well in a simple context, and then we add to that as we move through the different content that interacts with that concept, in this case perspective. So we progress, and again, if I'm self-taught, I have to learn to judge. Sorry, I've got the morning sun coming from one window and it's bouncing off my glasses. If we're self-taught, then I need to learn to manage that progression. I need to get a sense, once I know what I'm trying to be learning at this period of time, I need to get a sense of the demands of that and start simple. And one of the problems when we're self-taught, and I think one of the biggest problems I see, is that we all want to start at the end these days. I'll put on my old man hat and I'll say, nobody wants to work hard anymore. We all just want to be successful at the start, and and have 1 million followers on this or that, and we want to instantly be there. And I think that's why the shortcut, trick, hack, tip, fast track kind of mindset is so prevalent with so many things, that we want that success and we want it straight away. And the truth is that's not how learning happens. And sometimes people do learn things more quickly than others, and that's because we don't start at the same place. Even when we start in kindergarten, we don't start in the same place, because some of us have come from families where perhaps our parents or older siblings have been giving us input, have been reading to us, even teaching us how to read. Well, we start further along than the children who turn up, who've been in classes, who've been in families where they were the only child and where the parents were really busy trying to earn money to pay for the house and whatever. And they've had basically no input. Or maybe they've had no one ever read them a story. They're going to be in a very different starting place. And when we start learning to draw, we all start in different places. And I don't mean our age or whether we've done art courses before. I mean simply the skills that we've learned in life. So, for instance, yeah, I often talk about observation, the importance of observation. Well, we all know how to observe because we have to be able to see, to navigate our day, our world, our life. Um, and and so we all learn to see things and to respond, react, use them. And therefore, we think we know how to see. But when we observe to draw, and particularly drawing freehand in ink, so we kind of have to get it right the first time or not too wrong. We need to, it's quite a specific way of observing, of looking. We have to find the things that we need to find for a credible drawing. And this is a way of thinking that's not quite the same way we need to think and observe most things, maybe anything at all. And so my problem with drawing, and I think this is one of the biggest problems people have drawing, is that I start to draw when I actually haven't seen enough, when I haven't seen what I need to see to draw it well. And so I'm drawing from my memory of what I think I've seen instead of drawing from what's actually in my reference or in my imagination. And drawing from our imagination is simply using past memories of things we've seen and learnt and drawn or seen drawn. So drawing from imagination really is no different, except in many ways it's a lot harder because I have to actually put the references in my head accurately enough first to then be able to rustle through them and find them and choose the reference material I need from within my memory that I've put there because I've observed them at some point, and then reproduce that on the paper. So I need to be able to do all of that. Quite a but when I learned, if I start to draw and someone my age, roughly my life experience, starts to draw, I may have learned better observation skills. Maybe I don't know, maybe I collected stamps once and I used to look hard to see if I had a stamp that was different from how all the rest of them were or something. And I learned to observe really intensely. I learned to see minor differences and things. Then I may have developed observation skills that someone else who's simply lived the same number of years and done approximately similar things, maybe came from similar families and whatnot. I've learned observation skills that they didn't learn just by chance. And therefore, when we both start to draw on the first day together, I can observe, I can see things that they can't see, not because I have an ability to, but I've trained myself to just in the course of living. And if you want to ask me what's talent, I think talent, I don't think there's such a thing as talent. This has been in the back of my mind an ongoing issue from when I first made a video, well, from before when I first made a video on it. But I think I've come in my understanding to see more and more that what we think of as talent is often it's two things. It's simply the desire to do something. So the fact that I want to do something and really want to do it and really want to achieve in it means I try harder. And that's going to give me an example. That's going to give me an advantage over someone who doesn't care, who's doing it because they have to, learning the piano because mum and dad said I have to, and I can't play tennis if I don't learn piano, so I'll do it. Someone who's desperately wants to be a concert pianist is going to have the energy and the drive and the determination to push themselves more. And it may look like they're just more talented, but they're not. They don't have anything that the other person didn't have except the desire. Or it may be that there is prior life experience, which actually has given them an advantage because they've already learnt skills that they need without realizing it, and that they have these skills that the other person next to them doesn't have. And neither of them realizing it. It just looks when they go to draw as if somehow it's easier for them. And well, it is, but not because they were born that way. It's because they happen to have picked up those skills. So these are all very helpful things to understand when I'm the learner, when I'm the student learning to draw, but also when I'm the teacher. Sometimes it's easier being the teacher and the student at the same time, which is what this video is about. This session's about, if you've come in on it, the fact that if we're learning to draw and we're not going to a class or do it in a set course, then we are our own teacher as well. And when we choose videos to watch, say, such as this, where they're not our teacher, their video is a resource that as the teacher I'm choosing to use or not use. I'll just have a look at a few comments. Would I ever consider making a video on how I began to monetize my drawing and the lessons you learned? Do you mean monetize on YouTube, Milton, or just monetize making money anyway from my drawing? Because there's sort of two different questions. Tom wants 2 million followers. Yep. Well, look, it's hard enough keeping up with my 178,500. So, always behind. I mean, I started wanting to respond to everyone who left a comment, and at some point you just lose track of that and you can't, and I found that very hard. Getting better at the not too wrong level. That's great, Lance. Yeah, it's Derek's saying, had an art instructor who always said, draw what you see and not what you think you see. Yep. Talent is perspiration and concentration, period. From none. Yeah. Look, I guess that's what I'm saying. With talent. So, and it's helpful to understand that because it says to me, I can do it. It says to me, I can do it. But it may take me more work and effort than someone else, say, because they might be further along. They might have done more in their past. Maybe they just tried harder at art at school because they liked the teacher than I did. And so they've got more prior knowledge when we start now as adults together. So if I'm self-taught, I need to be the teacher. I need to plan. I need to have a curriculum. I need to know where the course is going. I need to know what the outcomes are going to be. Now, as the student, I get to choose these as well. I'm very sorry. Sorry, that's just my phone going off. Get my head back in the place. Yeah, and I need to set up regular sessions. It's helpful to think back to school and how we learned at school and the school setup. And school was hard work. And look, if I'm going to learn to draw, if I'm doing more than diversionary activity, if I'm trying to do more than just having fun and entertaining myself, then it's going to be hard work. If I just want to have fun, then as soon as it becomes not fun, I can stop. But if I'm wanting to develop certain skills, then I need to apply myself and push myself to get to that point and to get to it well. And as the teacher, at times I'll have to give myself a talking to about, come on, Stephen, you need to finish this. You've taken twice as long so far with this as was set, and you need to get it done. Or you really haven't done well and you need to do it again. You need to repeat this because that's a good learning process. And as I said earlier, if you repeat something, you start at where you finished, and that's a good advantage because you also know where you went wrong, and you also know why you went wrong that way because the teachers explained it to you. And as our own teacher, we've worked out what wasn't right. And so just going back to, if we're the teacher, we do need to mark our work. we need to look at it and we need to assess it, and we need to say, has it achieved the purpose of the lesson, of this course, of this module, whatever language we want to use? Have we done well enough to move on, or do we either need to repeat this exercise exactly again, or do some more exercises that give a chance for the student, for me, to consolidate this area, which clearly isn't perhaps as clearly done as it could be. Yep. Yeah, as the teacher, we need to not accept errors, because the errors we accept won't be gone past. It's the teacher who says, who gives the green light for moving on, and nothing's going to be more discouraging for me if I give myself a green light to move on, that that's not hasn't been earned, because I'm only going to come to grief more so further down the track. And so I need to learn to mark my work. I need to learn to critique it. I need to learn to look at it and to work out, is this what I wanted? Is it okay? Are there any problems with it? And I've got maybe 3 or 4 videos that look at how do we critique our work, questions we can ask, ways we can help to understand or see with different eyes, to see mistakes. One of the problems when we draw is a drawing appears over a period of time, and I may do some things wrong at the start of the drawing that aren't right, but there's not really enough of the drawing around it to make it so obvious. And by the time I finish the drawing, I've got used to what's not quite right there. And so I don't see it as being wrong. There are ways around these sorts of issues if we want. So maybe check out some of those videos. And whatever I do, I shouldn't, as the teacher, lower the standards. Now, teachers can give extensions for work, or they can decide that, in fact, we need to linger on this topic for longer. So they're all options I do have as the teacher. But if we still want the student to get to the same result, the same end place at the end of the course as we had in mind when we started, then need to not drop the standards. Need to say, no, this isn't good enough. Doing the same things wrong over and over again is not going to be helpful. It's only going to entrench doing unhelpful things in our drawings. So we need to be able to push past in some way. So that's my job as the teacher, is not to lower the standards of the course, but to lift the student up to the standards in any place where there are problems, where there are difficulties with that. Now, a good teacher also doesn't swamp a student with resources and with things to do, with too much to do or too much to think about all at once. A good teacher stays focused. G'day there, Stevie. A good teacher keeps focus. And as a self-taught artist, once upon a time, it was easier in that you'd go to the bookshop, you'd buy a book, you'd look through all the books on drawing, you'd hope that to find one that suited the sort of drawing that you wanted to do, and you'd buy it and you'd work through the book as a curriculum. Now, of course, and books were relatively a lot more expensive as well, so you possibly even had to save for the book. Now, of course, everything's online. There's so much that's free in every direction that we look, that we really can get quite confused. We really can start to be distracted by the resources that are available, and resources that we don't perhaps know enough to realize easily aren't taking us where we want to go. And we can end up just spinning around, being confused, being entertained, enjoying the process, but not ending up with anything. not ending up with what we were hoping to end up with at the end. And I think the biggest danger with this is that we blame ourselves, that we fall back into, I think, very unhelpful and untrue things, reasoning about talent and thinking, I've got no talent. I just, clearly I'm not talented enough to with art to draw, when in fact I just didn't have a learning process. I just was very confused with what I was doing, and I didn't know enough to know that that was happening. I somehow thought that looking at all these different videos and drawing along or doing all these different things would produce a result that hasn't been produced, and I'm blaming myself instead of I'm blaming that I don't somehow have it in me, instead of blaming the fact that, well, actually, my teacher, me, didn't do a very good job of teaching. And then, in fact, I am my teacher, not the person talking in the video. They're presenting a resource that I can choose to use or not choose to use, and I need to choose ones that will be helpful. And not too much material at once, not too much new material at once. To introduce new things once we've consolidated the old things is important. And not to skip ahead to things that seem more interesting. And again, you see, as a self-taught anything, this is the danger. We can run ahead to something glittery and sparkly down the road that looks exciting, that we're impatient to be able to do. So, for instance, for me, because in my drawing, architecture was what I started drawing, and it's still largely what I draw, except I probably draw nature. I probably draw trees and bush scenes, forest scenes, almost as much now. But starting with architecture, the glittery, sparkly things that I wanted to race ahead and draw was the extravagant, magnificent architecture that I liked. And the truth is, a lot of it was too hard for me. And fortunately, I realized that I need to start with some smaller, simpler architecture that I can learn to draw well, or just try and draw certain parts of a larger thing. Because if I try and draw the Musée du Louvre, if I start with something incredible like that, I'm not going to be able to do it. And I'll both develop bad habits and end up discouraging myself. And again, I'll start to think, oh, I'm just obviously clearly don't have the talent that you have to be born with to do it well. Instead of realizing, look, that was a very poor learning strategy. I was a very bad teacher to myself, to let myself try and do things that are just way beyond me because I got excited. The excitement's great. We need to keep the excitement, and we need to use the excitement to give us motivation to plow through the cottages that we draw, the simple houses that we draw, the small trees that we draw, the simple street scenes that we draw, which are the foundation then for progressing what we do in complexity and learning more skills, learning how to see. I mean, if I'm having to learn how to observe, then the simpler the thing to observe is, the easier I can observe it well and then learn how to observe. It's not just the ink on the paper skills that we need to learn and develop as well. Yeah, Sarah's agreeing that she has way too many art teachers on YouTube, and it's overwhelming. And the problem is that they're not all compatible. They may all be excellent. They may all have great strengths in what they do, although they may not, because let's face it, at school, not every teacher was as good as every other teacher. But let's say they're all excellent video presentations on ways of drawing, say. They may be incompatible. They may have different ways of thinking and seeing and drawing at their heart. that don't actually work in with each other at all. And it's not that one's better than the other, it's simply that they're different and we might need to make a choice. And if we don't realize that, again, then we're trying to combine information from incompatible sources, not realizing they're incompatible, and we're going to get confused. And again, we're going to think that we're the problem as the student, instead of understanding that we're the problem as the teacher, that as my own art teacher, I haven't organized my material wisely, and I haven't looked at it to assess whether it's going to be helpful. I've just started to use it. And instead, what I need to do is I need to find material that's compatible, not too much because that will be confusing. But I need to, when I do listen to different voices, I need to have them all saying roughly the same sort of thing and heading me in the same sort of direction. Can I do more of these live streams? Look, I do have more of them, Tom. I don't normally do them at this time. This is now Tuesday morning my time. I normally do them Sunday night. So for most of the world, that makes them Sunday morning. But we've been away for the weekend, and so was just too tired Sunday night, and yesterday morning wasn't possible. I am thinking of doing a live session Thursday mornings my time, maybe doing 2 a week and not have them go as long, because that's I think works better for the Americas. Operating on a world time zone is a bit tricky from Australia. We seem to be awake when almost the entire world is sleeping. So yeah. Okay, in London. Yeah. Well, my Sunday night ones would work better for London because I think you're about 9-10 hours behind us at the moment. So it would kind of make it sort of midday for you. Of course, you might have better things to do at midday on Sunday than listen to me rabbit on. Let's go on. What else will a good teacher do? Yes, not skip sections and rush to more interesting parts. A good teacher will inspire, and I need to keep myself inspired. You know, a good teacher will keep their students kind of on side with, yep, we're doing this. This is worthwhile doing. Let's keep doing this. We'll be glad we kept on with this when we get to the end. A good teacher keeps the class, keeps the students with them on the process. And I need to do that for myself if I'm my teacher. And how do we keep ourselves inspired? Look, I think we encourage ourselves with the things that work. We pause to say, hey, this looks good. We encourage ourselves with the things that don't work by focusing on that in future lessons, and therefore we improve. And then we get to say, hey, you did well. I think at times we look back at previous work so that we can see how we've progressed, and we encourage ourselves. Maybe there are times where we give ourselves excursions. We take ourselves into the city for an art exhibition as someone who we want. Or we buy ourselves a how to draw book from someone whose drawing style and way of thinking and a drawing is compatible with us and what we're doing. We give ourselves little treats. Maybe we work hard to clear ourselves half a day instead of 15 minutes a day so that we can spend more time drawing. Whatever we can do to inspire ourselves and keep our creative energy buzzing through the process, and often through the slog and through the disappointments of learning to draw, is important. So a good teacher keeps their students inspired, and a sense of humor can help a lot of situations. A sense of humor could diffuse a lot of tense, angsty situations in a classroom. and a sense of humor is something we can use ourselves with our teacher's hat on when our drawing hasn't gone well, when we've put that line in the place that we actually can't do anything about it except look at it. There's just no way we can obscure it or hide it or mitigate it. And we need to be able to smile and be gentle with ourselves and go, well, I've learned something here, and I've learned that this isn't a drawing that's going to go up on the wall anywhere. And learn to smile and laugh rather than to get tense and angry and upset and accusatory of ourselves in some way. Because I need to encourage myself to persevere. So at that point, when I really do mess up irretrievably in a drawing, I need to not perhaps speak to myself as the drawing student, but I need to walk up behind myself as the drawing teacher and put my hand on my shoulder and speak some words of comfort. Yeah. Oh, that's right. This was a thought that came to me as I was thinking about this last night, that in some ways, YouTube and the whole YouTube opportunity with videos, teaching videos, is a bit like a school, is a bit like a high school. See, if I were to sit outside a high school and look at it, what's happening is that in there are lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of different rooms. And in those rooms, there are lots and lots and lots of different teachers. And the teachers are all teaching different subjects to different ages, to different ability levels. And let's just say I was able to walk in and sit in any space, in any classroom, and just be a part of that lesson. Well, that could be interesting. And I could jump from room to room and hear different types of things at all different levels. But if I was trying to learn something in particular, that wouldn't be a very helpful way to go about it. It would only be by chance that I would walk into a room that would be something I really wanted to learn at a level that was appropriate for my age and ability level and pre-existing knowledge and all of that. Well, that's a bit like YouTube. Each video is like a classroom, or each video teacher is like a teacher in a classroom. And it's really hit and miss. If I'm just going randomly into a room or I'm just randomly looking at a video, it's pretty hit and miss as to whether it's actually what I need. What I need to do is just stay in the classroom long enough to work out, is this helpful? Is this what I'm wanting to learn? Is it taking me to the place I want to go? Is it at an appropriate level for where I'm at, for who I am, and so forth? And so we really want to avoid rushing to go to too many different classrooms, or to go into a classroom and just sit there because it hasn't occurred to me to try another classroom. We as the teacher, we need to take the randomness out of just stumbling across resources and going with them because, well, it's there, and somehow thinking that they're all the same. No, what's being taught in different classrooms in a high school is very different from classroom to classroom for all sorts of reasons. And it's going to be the same with YouTube videos, even within the same niche, even assuming that every classroom is teaching the same subject area, the same broad subject area. Not every video is going to be helpful for where I want to end up. A couple of comments. Keto saying, not every art is a magnum opus. We should be kind to ourselves and keep learning. Be a kind teacher and an interested student. Yep. And sometimes as the student, we need to give input to the teacher. We need to say, I don't understand this, and which really is just coming to terms that we bit off more than we could chew. And we need to be realistic about that so that we can reset where we're working at. Sarah's saying that she's jumped around in too many rooms and starting to concentrate on one or two teachers and mediums at a time. And it's really, yep. Yeah. Another good learning principle is that it's better to stay in one place and go deep. Because when we go deep, we don't just learn what we learn, but we learn the skill of going deep. We learn what it's like to stay in the one place and to create a foundation and to build on that, and the way that feels, the effort it takes, the possibilities it creates, the satisfaction that it gives you, but mostly the effort that it takes. And we learn things in that way that we don't learn if we just do a little bit in a certain area. And by a certain area, I would say drawing in pencil or drawing in pen. I drew exclusively in pencil for a couple of years, and I think I developed quite a few pencil drawing skills. When I switched to pen, I stopped drawing in pencil completely, not because there's anything wrong with it, but because I wanted to learn to draw in pen, and I had to burn those bridges and shift my thinking, and I wanted to go deep in pencil, in pen. But having gone deep in pencil gave me skills, and by skills I include experiences of going deep that I was able to continue with, that I was able to go deep with in the pen, and therefore I was able to go with pen deeper faster than I was able to go deeper with pencil, because I learned a lot of things in going deep with pencil that were applicable in exactly the same way before I started drawing at all. I mean, I've really only been drawing for 6 years. 2018 is kind of like middle of 2018 is when I started drawing on that trip to Europe. But I had painted in oils for 10 years before that. I actually started my art as an adult at 50 with oil painting of Australian tree canopies. and I'm amazed at and I wasn't planning to draw at all. The drawing was accidental. I mean, it's taken over my life now, but I was planning just to paint. And I believe I went deep in painting in oils, not just in painting with oils, not just in the technical things, but by staying with a certain subject, by limiting all the parameters that could have been different, and by just staying in the one area, I really went deep in learning how to create the effects of the light on foliage and so forth. And I learnt skills about going deep, which when I started to draw were very useful. When I started, I mean, a lot of people have trouble drawing trees. I feel like trees are probably a great strength of mine in drawing. And I realized that's because I learned how to paint them. And so many of the skills I needed to develop in painting trees, much to my surprise, when I began to draw them with pencil, I was consciously even remembering the techniques and the way of thinking and the way of observation and so forth that I used, that I learned with painting them in oils that were applicable for use in pencil, and then still applicable in ink. So going deep in one area, we learn all sorts of things, both actual skills, but also just ways of thinking, ways of working, learning to persevere. We learn all these things in going deep. If I go shallow in lots of areas, and look, if I have a kind of visual, graphic, creative interests, desire, dreams, then it's very easy to get excited about all the creative abilities, all the creative possibilities that there are. And so it's easy to think, oh, they look wonderful. I'll use some pastels. Oh, watercolor. It's so exciting. I'm going to try that. Oh, drawing in ink. I'm going to try that. Oh, I love charcoal. That looks amazing what that person's done. I'm going to try that. And we can go very shallow in lots of areas. And what we end up doing is learning how to go shallow. And we don't learn what it's like to persevere and go deep and to really start to entrench skills and the ways we have to think and work to be successful in those skills to a deep level. We don't learn that. Now, as a teacher, part of my responsibility is to keep the students focused and take them deeper than perhaps they would want to go normally, so they learn those skills. And those skills don't really become skills for most of them in learning history. They become life skills because those skills of being able to stay in the one place in our head and go deep in our thought processes over something, those skills are important. It doesn't matter whether we learnt them studying history or geography or English. Those skills are important. So that's what we need to be doing with our drawing. Okay. And of course, the teacher all the way through, the art teacher all the way through, or any teacher, needs to make adjustments, needs to respond to the things that perhaps they hadn't realized at the start and therefore didn't plan as well as could have planned for this particular class. And if I'm my own teacher, then I need to keep doing that. I may have started with unrealistic expectations about my class. And of course, I'm the class. So I need to adjust them when I realize that. I need to slow down, or I might need to speed up. I might, in fact, find that there was more prior knowledge than I expected. And therefore, we can go further faster for a period. If you've just joined, just talking, or just really coming to the end of talking about how if I'm a self-taught studier of drawing, then I'm not just the student, but I'm the teacher as well. If I don't go to a class and have a teacher who's being paid to organize my learning journey, then I need to do that myself. And I've come to realize how much, having been trained as a teacher decades ago, probably before most of your parents were born, how much that's helped me, even though it was so long ago and it was nothing to do with art, it was English and history. I've certainly realized that what I learned about the learning process in that has been incredibly helpful for me. And it's possibly been an advantage that other people have thought, oh gosh, he's talented. Look how quickly he's improved. When in fact, it wasn't talent. It was just that I'd already learned a lot of the skills that were going to help me learn without realizing it. And that's what happens in life. And that's why some people seem to progress faster than others. It's not because somehow it's easier for them because they were born with a gene that makes drawing easier, but in their life journey up to that point, for whatever reason, they've been able to, or wanted to, or had to develop skills that have been advantageous in drawing, and therefore, and a lot of that may just be attitude, may simply be wanting to as well. And so, next to someone who hasn't had all those inputs, it looks like it's easier for them. And it's not easier, it's just different. Thanks, Rats. Are there any questions about this or about anything at all before I go and have a cup of coffee? Anything that anyone would like to ask me about being your own drawing teacher? as well as your own drawing student on a self-taught journey. But of course, um, you only have one teacher per subject at school, and there's a reason for that. And sometimes you might have to have 2 or even 3 teachers for a subject because they've got staffing issues, but it's not, or timetabling issues, but it's not ideal. And invariably, whenever we had more than one teacher for the one subject, it finished up being confusing. I always felt that we finished up not learning as well. It was always, if the teachers, presuming the teachers were all a similar level of capability, it was always better outcome with one teacher to have the one voice speaking into us, the one way of thinking, always made things more straightforward. And I think this is where we do need to be careful how much we listen to from how many people on YouTube. So are there no more questions? I think you want to ask me about learning or drawing or anything like that. Now's your chance. I'm not sure what the time lag is between my saying something. Being so many teachers in us is really hard, but I like the idea of focusing on one subject, learning a bit of everything, but not focusing. Where do I live in Australia? I don't teach anywhere except on YouTube. I do one-on-one drawing tutorials online over using Instagram video chat. So if you'd like the details of I do charge for that. So if and that can be really helpful. What people often just have one 1 hour lesson, and the way that works is that you email me say 3 recent drawings with the 3 references that you used, and I go through them and I critique them in some detail. And depending on what you've drawn and how you've drawn it, I might redraw part of one of them to just show how I would have approached that. But what I aim to do by the end of the 1 hour is to give you a clear focus as to perhaps how you can progress from that point and improve, or where perhaps you should pull back and concentrate on something that's perhaps spoiling what you're doing consistently. So yeah. So if that sounds helpful, you could contact me with a direct message on my Instagram channel, or you could send me an email to www.stephentraversart.com. And I can give you the details. I don't like to give prices and stuff on videos because they can change, and so they won't be relevant. But if you want more details about that, as I said, sometimes people get a 1 hour lesson with me for a birthday present, which is nice. In what direction am I headed? I think what am I? Look, in some ways, I'd like to go back to my oil painting and see how will it have been impacted by like 6 years of non-stop drawing, and particularly drawing similar subjects, such as the trees, because I was getting more and more kind of trying to go for a realistic look without ever trying to do photorealism. but I think I would like to develop a style where a painting style that perhaps was a little more, I'll say, graphic, where line was a little more obvious. So uh, not kind of going for quite that as much photographic smoothness as I was before I did the drawing journey. So part of me would like to revisit the oils because I had, for different reasons, I had to pack all that stuff away. I thought just for maybe 6 months, and it finished up being 5 years. So now it's going to be a big deal to unpack it. And on any given day, it's easy to think, oh, I'll just draw. Um, but I also would like to explore watercolor on. I have all the stuff, of course, because we buy the stuff. Then we buy it because it's on special or something, or it just grabs us as we walk past it, and then we never find time to use it because we're always doing something else. But I would like to explore the watercolor on that. That's why I started drawing in ink, was because my pencil work was, I felt, pretty smudgy, and I thought the water's just going to smudge it even worse. And so I thought ink and watercolor would combine nicely. And so I thought I'll work on the because I started doing the freehand pen drawing as preparation for our trip to Europe in 2020 that was cancelled because of COVID. And I wanted to be able to just sit and draw with a pen confidently without erasing or anything, and then throw the color on top. Well, I've certainly learned to draw with a pen. It's just that I now just have to do the watercolor. So I guess that's the direction too. Stephanie Bauer is the Instagram watercolorist who I follow a few, but yeah, she's an architect and she does, I think, the most amazing architectural sort of watercolors, location sketching. So she was kind of my model, and so I'm still planning to go there, Lance. If that answers your question. In my list of videos, what do I suggest to watch first for a beginner? Hi, Antonio. Oh, wow. I'm sorry. I don't know how to say that. Um, yeah, yeah. But yeah, greetings to Brazil. Um, what to watch first? Look, I do have a series that I did, Easy Drawing for Beginners, that I think I did about 60 videos for over a year ago. The drawings ended up becoming not so easy, and so I stopped doing that because I simply ran out of ideas of subjects that I wanted to draw that were easy enough. But maybe the first dozen of those. Um, um, I have a perspective playlist that I kind of call a perspective course, in that I chose 13 videos that I thought covered all the kind of broad areas of perspective that other videos covered as well. But I thought this sort of gave you one video in each of the different areas of perspective that I have videos that cover. So that might be good. I would certainly look at I do have a tree drawing playlist as well. And yeah, I would have a look at my playlists and flick through them and find the subjects that look, the videos within that playlist that look more straightforward. If I do a demo within a video, then the end drawing of that demo will be on will be on the thumbnail. So that can give you a sense of what it's going to be. But some of them are more technique and more step-by-step driven than others. So yeah, it is a problem when there's as many videos as there are now. But I would also say balance the draw. If you want to watch my videos, balance watching the ones where I do a drawing demo with the ones where I talk about the process, because in lots of ways, I think those ones are sort of more significant, because what we do comes from how we think. And I think that is important to realize. We often focus on the technical skills because that's what we end up with on the paper. And so we think that's what makes the drawings. No, that's just the last part of the process. The first part of the process is wanting to draw, and it's being inspired in some way to want to draw something, and then it's observing what we need to observe to be able to draw. And then it's having observed it, it's working out, how do I translate that into marks on my paper? All of that is what tells me what marks I want to put and where I want to put them and how I put them to actually create it. But if I haven't learned all of that stuff in the head beforehand, then I'm not going to know what marks to put where or why. That's why copying someone else's drawing is so much easier, because they've done that and I don't have to. I only have to copy. Well, copying is a skill, but it's not a particularly difficult skill, certainly not in comparison to having to do all that creative thinking ourselves. And so I think that's important to realize. So I think the playlist is called something like I don't know, drawing tips for the self-taught artist, but they're not actually technical tips. They're tips to do with how we think. All the things that we should have our head on top of before we start to put the pen on the paper, or sometimes things such as this. So, I mean, I haven't, but I probably will now make a video. That's not a live session, but make a video on the fact that if we're on a self-taught journey for drawing, we're actually the teacher. We're not, we are the student, but we are the teacher as well. And at times we consciously have to think of, how can I be a good teacher? What makes a good teacher? What responsibilities does a teacher have? Because I have all those responsibilities if I'm going to succeed as the student, as much as I have the more familiar student responsibilities. And the fact that I was once a teacher has probably made it easier for me to know those things, even though it wasn't in art. I've been a great art teacher. Thank you, Finlay. That's very kind. I want to create, but I'm looking at the beginning of the principles of art. Well, look, I would say the first thing, Michelle, is to realize that you can't learn everything all at once. And so choose a starting point and sit there for a while in that place, concentrating on that, which doesn't mean to say that you can't change it. Often the starting point just becomes the place where we choose, if you like, the real starting point, because the first starting point can be almost at random, but it's the place where we refine more. We're able to refine more what we're really wanting to be on about. So, hey, look, can I just ask, if you're finding this interesting, please hit the like button for me and help me out as well. That would be great. But we can find out what our real starting point is, because we might have to go a little way down a path that's not quite going the right way to realize, no, I want to go this way. and that's all part of it. But we can't learn everything all at once, and so we need to start in a place, and yeah, we're really learning skills in lots of ways as well, and those skills can be applied anywhere. So if I might start, I don't know, drawing horses in pencil, and I might finish up drawing architecture in ink with watercolor. But I can promise you that if you learn the skills well, yeah, in drawing pencil horses, then there will be benefit flowing from that into where you end up. Just as starting in oils, painting big trees for 10 years, when I started drawing, I was amazed at how conscious I was that I was benefiting from my 10 years of oil painting, doing an art form that was so different. Yeah. So, yeah. Michelle's saying she's been learning to paint for 4 years, isolated, and can't go to art classes. And look, that's the reality for many people. And YouTube is great, and the isolation can be geographic. It can be personal. It can personal issues. It can be lack of finance. It can be lots of things. Wonderful thing about YouTube is that it gives us a means of navigating through that, but we do want to navigate through it carefully. And if you miss the start of this, then Michelle, then it's probably a good sort of outline of how to be our own best teacher. I've also got videos on how to choose YouTube videos to watch, like what makes a good how to draw video to watch. Not all videos are equal, and we need to understand our purpose. And it's not that this is better than that. It's just that they take us to different places. So if I want to be entertained, then there are different videos for me to watch than if I want to learn to draw. And at some point I'll have to choose between the two, because the best videos to teach me how to draw may not be the most entertaining. Yeah, it doesn't matter what I want to do, but except to me, and I need to know so that I can make the best choice. And again, these are the choices that a teacher would normally make, because a teacher would choose the material, the curriculum, would know where we're trying to go. We have to navigate that ourselves. And look, and that was an advantage I had. I was a trained teacher. It may not have been art, but learning is learning. And that gave me a huge advantage over the place I would have been in if I'd not been a trained teacher and never thought about learning as a skill, because learning is a skill. We have to learn. And hopefully for most of us at school, to some degree, we learn how to learn, but probably not in a very explicit way. We did learn to learn without always understanding what it was. Tom paints with, hang on. I think some YouTube learners just have teaching videos on because it's nice to have someone talking intelligently about art in the background. Often use videos in that way. Yeah, no, actually, Tom, I've had other people make that comment that particularly my talking head videos have those in the background. I think of them as either the pen on paper or the talking head videos, and I try and alternate them to some degree, because I think that they're both parts of how we learn. And if you like, sometimes at school we would have practical lessons, and sometimes we would have more theoretical lessons, and they would work together. Because sometimes the pen's not working properly on the paper, because our thought processes aren't helpful, aren't compatible with what we're trying to do. Greetings, Fernando, to Mexico. It's probably nice and sunny and warm in Mexico. Okay. Well, look, I think I'll probably wrap this up now. If you haven't hit the like button, please do. If you've come in at the end, please go back to the start and maybe listen to it in the background while you draw. This video has been about how to be your own best art teacher. That if you're on a self-taught learning journey, not just are you a student learning to draw, but you're having to be the teacher, teaching yourself how to draw. Maybe not in the content, but even what content you choose, you're choosing as your teacher, and you need to choose wisely. That there are lots and lots of responsibilities that a teacher has that we need to take on for ourselves. And if we're aware of that, if we're aware of taking them on for ourselves, then we can embrace that and do it, and maybe get a lot further a lot quicker. I don't know if you've seen my latest series of videos, 10-minute real-time drawing videos. At the moment, I'm still trying to post one of those every day. I'm enjoying making them. And I think just before I started this live session, I posted number 52. But from a teaching point of view, I mean, I actually started that series because from a teaching point of view, it's a very sound principle. There's a reason why kids have to do their piano practice every day, because that's how we learn. A shortish period of time every day is really effective for learning. And so 10 minutes of drawing or 15 minutes of drawing, if we can squeeze it in, is a real fast track of improvement. And so I was trying to, with these videos, make it as easy as possible, make it seem as easy as possible to learn and to do. So you don't need to find a reference. The reference is there. You can get a sense of how your drawing may look with my drawing by showing the first 10 minutes, which is usually about 85% of the time of the drawing as well. So they're drawings that at most take me 15 minutes to do, maybe 16 minutes occasionally, but if there's some trees with a lot of hatching. But after 10 minutes, I go to double time just for often just fairly repetitive hatching work on trees. Yeah, by watching me draw in real time, you get to almost see the thinking sometimes. And I do a voiceover which gives different input. Sometimes it's explaining something technical I'm doing, or my thought processes, or whether something worked or didn't work, or something I discovered at the end about something that I'd just done. I hope that's interesting. Hello to India. Yep, that's all good. Gosh, it's annoying. I have now that I'm saying I'm going to go, I have 30 people, which is just about the most at one time. It's always easier to go if the numbers are dropping down. It's 4:38 in the morning. Oh, Muscan, goodness, you should be sleeping. How am I? Well, it's 9:10, 9:10 in the morning on Tuesday morning in Australia, and I'm cold. So it's a chilly morning here, and I'm in need of my morning cup of coffee. You may have heard my wife get up and make her cup of coffee. So I think it's time that I join her for that. So look, thank you for joining. I have a lot of other live sessions if this has been interesting. Yeah, appreciate you. If you haven't hit the like button, please do that now. Oh, Michelle, you're in Adelaide. Lovely place. I've been to Adelaide for one reason or another quite a lot, and it's it's I don't know. It's a bit like a cross between a country town and a CBD. It's this wonderful scale, I think, of city and country combined. Yeah. If I need to get warm, please do. Yeah, I probably need to have my coffee and go for a walk and maybe thin out my carrots, do something in the yard, and then yeah, start on drawing for today's video. I might do tomorrow's 10-minute drawing first. I like to get those done. Actually, yes, Muscan. I was reading that it was 45 degrees in Delhi yesterday. That particularly the north of India. North of India is really hot. We've I think 46.8 is the hottest it's ever been here, but that was just once. Oh, you're in Delhi. Okay. Well, look, you take care and stay hydrated because it. Yeah. We've actually in Sydney we've had a couple of relatively mild summers. The last couple of years, we would usually lately the last decade have a week each summer where we've had temperatures from the 40 to 45 for a week. We haven't had that the last few years. We've had fairly wet summers with cooler temperatures, which has been nice. And it means we haven't had to worry about bushfires so much. Yeah. Oh, well, thank you. That's very kind, Muscan. Yeah. All right. Well, look, thanks everyone. Thanks for joining. Brian's been following me since January. That's great. Yeah. Well, it is difficult, Muscan. I can't afford to. These live sessions are helpful. Look, I'm trying to get back into my routine of Sunday night live sessions. So 8:30 Sydney time. So if you work out what time that is in Delhi, then this is the best chance you've got to speak with me about art. There's a few people in Florida today. Welcome to Florida. So this is probably the best possibility. I mean, I could do a live session where I just answer questions that people have. Would that be useful? The 25 people listening right now. Would you have questions that you could ask me if that was about drawing? If that was the point of the session? Is that a worthwhile thing to do? Do you want to tell me now? Yes or no? Would you have, is there a question about art that Muscan loves watercolor painting, but the color's not bright enough. Look, I found with my oil painting, becoming bolder in my color was an ongoing issue, and it's one that, I mean, it's tricky because a lot of the Australian greens, they're very drab. They're very sort of more the olive green side of things. So, yeah, but where there were bright colors, I found it hard to get brighter and also stronger contrast. So I found over the 10 years I painted, that was my journey. My journey was becoming brighter and becoming bolder in contrast. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, maybe that's what we'll do next Sunday night, my time, because that will be Sunday during the day for a lot of the world. Unless you're in New Zealand, then it'll be midnight and you'll be asleep. Sorry about that. Thanks, Rosanna. That's good to hear. So again, if you haven't hit like, please do. I've already posted today's 10-minute drawing, real-time drawing video. So why not go and have a look at that now and do some drawing? And I'm going to go have a cup of coffee, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for joining. Really appreciate it. Bye. See you next time. End. Bing.